Hey, this is Jamey with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to be talking about my favorite mechanism in Marvel Villainous. I have played and talked about the original Villainous, which focuses on Disney characters. Marvel's now owned by Disney, so it's also Disney, but this is specific to Marvel villains. So we played a three-player game where each of us was a Marvel villain trying to be the most villainous. It's a very asymmetric game, and I love the asymmetry in the game. Each character has its own unique deck of cards that they use throughout the game to become more powerful. They have their own way to win the game. I was playing Ultron, and I had a very different way to play the game than Killmonger and the one of the bad guys from forgetting the lady's name, from what's her name, Hela from one of the Thor movies. And so we had very different decks of cards, very different ways to win. But we also each had a unique deck of fate cards. And this is where the game, as far as I can recall, is a little bit different than normal Disney Villainous. Because in normal Disney Villainous, every player has their own deck of fate cards, and it remains in its own deck. And so whenever you play a fate card, you draw from that deck, and then you play that card on another player to impede another player. However, in Marvel Villainous, all of the fate cards for all the villains that are currently in play are shuffled into one common fate deck. And when you draw a fate card, you draw it from this fate deck. And it does something very subtle that I like compared to the original Villainous, if I'm remembering that game correctly. In fact, you could even probably do this in the original Villainous. And the thing that it does is basically it kind of steers you a little bit. So when I draw a fate card, I was playing against the Hela and Killmonger. When I drew a fate card, I might target one of those two players, because I think they're ahead. But I could also choose it for a variety of other factors, and by drawing from a common deck instead of my own deck of fate cards, it adds an extra level of theme and an extra level of direction. Rather than me picking on one certain player, which I could still do, say that I draw this Black Panther card. It has a Killmonger icon down there, and so I am more inclined to play this card against the Killmonger player, because it happens to have specific, so this one says Black Panther gains 2 strength while in Killmonger's domain. So even though I could play this hero in Hela's domain, I'm kind of predisposed to playing it in Killmonger's. So the game kind of steers you a little bit to it takes a little pressure off of you when you play this card, because it means if I play this in Killmonger's domain, the Killmonger player isn't going to look at me and be like, Jamey, why are you picking on me? I can just say, I'm doing it because this card is particularly effective against you, and because it came from a common deck instead of my own deck, it was random. It was a random draw there. It's a little hard to describe. Hopefully I've described that okay, but I really, really like that. I like to take away opportunities for spite in games, and there is a little bit of that in Villainous, but this takes away from that a little bit and adds an extra layer of theme. The other things I like about Villainous are also in Disney Villainous. One is the action selection system, which is very similar to Scythe, in that you are choosing a different section on your player mat, one of these 4 sections, a different section than the previous section you chose on your previous turn, and you take the actions. In this game, you take them in any order. These are the 4 actions you can take on this section, and you take them in any order. In Scythe, it's a little different. You take the top action, then you take the bottom action, or you take only the bottom action, or only the top action. But I really like that action selection mechanism. It gives you a little variety in that you're always choosing different areas. And the fate cards play a nice role in there because they can block the top actions on a certain location. The other thing, of course, that I really like about Marvel Villainous is the asymmetry, which I already talked about. But I love all the time and attention spent putting the asymmetry into this game, and how it somehow also feels balanced, and how players can also balance it through the fate deck as they play. I'd love to hear what you think about Villainous in general, or Marvel Villainous if you've actually played it, if you have a favorite character, a favorite mechanism in it, or if these mechanisms remind you of another game. Feel free to let me know in the comments below. Thanks!